A bombshell from Bush world. Former White House insider lets loose.
Breaking news tonight. Details from former White House Press Secretary Scott McClellan's book of leak.
Big story breaking this morning. Really
Scott
interesting
McClellan making
stuff.
news with his new book.
Who would have thought?
Former colleagues of Scott McClellan now venting anger, shock, and confusion.
No doubt a lot of folks in the White House, current and former, are going to come against this guy saying he was out of the loop.
Look, it goes to show how out of the loop he was. He shouldn't have been in those loops. He wouldn't have been.
You know, he wasn't in the meetings.
Was he at the meetings?
Frankly, I don't recall Scott being in a lot of those meetings.
I was there. I saw it. I saw it a lot more than Scott did, in fact.
I think his view is limited, and some of this may be misunderstanding on his part of what he saw and heard.
He didn't have the right access.
How does he know what was said behind closed doors?
New reaction from the White House. Dana Perino, White House spokesperson, saying the president was puzzled.
He is puzzled.
We are puzzled, Perino said.
Folks in the White House are puzzled.
There's a lot of puzzled people at the White House, like that's news.
Puzzled, in fact, seems to be the word of the day.
Puzzling. I'm sorry to say it, Anderson. There's just a sense of puzzlement at the White House.
We're all puzzled.
That's what I find so perplexing.
Perplexed.
It's so puzzling. He's got a lot of people who used to believe in him who really now are scratching their heads.
Kind of scratching their heads.
I'm just scratching my head.
We're all kind of left scratching our heads.
Well,
and it leaves me.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. No, I'm sorry.
No, I
Please
understand.
go ahead.
I'm going to lose you. I'm just going to lose you on the satellite. I don't want to cut you off, but I think you're just going to disappear because the satellite is going to close down. So I'm sorry.
Quite baffling, to be honest. Bewildered, shocked, and surprised.
Shocked and saddened.
Shocked, surprised, disappointed.
All of the above, maybe?
It's kind of hard to make heads or tails of it. It's kind of out of left field.
What's your personal reaction?
Well, I hate to sound like everyone else sounds.
I want to hear it.
But I was surprised,
Puzzled.
all the words you've been hearing.
I find this book myself to be puzzling. I think there's a lot
That's
in here
the White House talking point, Ari. You're using the word puzzling. That's the White House talking point today.
Chris, I just agreed with what Dana said. What's wrong with my agreeing with what somebody says? I think it's an accurate observation.
With all due respect, Ari, it sounds as if you all are operating from the same playbook. Did you get together and discuss how to respond to this?
No, I think it's just that we all worked shoulder to shoulder with Scott for so long.
But the exact lingo you're using is coming out of the White House right now.
You just said it, and I just agreed with it. Chris, what's wrong with my agreeing? I just find that
there's amazing synchronicity of reaction to this that sounds like it's regimental.
We learned this afternoon that the White House, in fact, had received a copy of the former press secretary's book almost, or at least a month before excerpts became public this week. They really had time to prepare in choosing how they were going to respond to this book.
Puzzling.
Puzzled.
Well, I'm still a little puzzled, but it certainly is good to hear for you.
This is a book that doesn't make sense. Make no sense. Something is wrong. Something doesn't add up.
It doesn't match. It doesn't match. It doesn't match. It doesn't match. It doesn't match.
It doesn't add up. I can't figure it out.
For those of us who worked with him and saw how much he loved being press secretary and how much he loved being a part of the back and forth in this room, we were so surprised and not just puzzled and surprised and disappointed and saddened by it.
I thought his heart was in it and he believed it. I'm heartbroken because I just don't understand it. It's so hard to understand.
Well, apparently he's changed his mind.
But I just still don't understand. I still can't understand. It's just too hard to understand.
I mean, all of us are moderately talented people.
I gotta say, I am stumped. I am really stumped. I just am so stumped. I'm stumped and I'm stunned.
You said you were stumped.
I'm still stumped, and that's what leaves me really just kind of heartbroken. Oh, Robin, it's so horribly unfair. I feel like crying. This is heartbreaking to me.
It's hard to sit here and not notice how when you're watching the piece and just, in your look right now, that I
find this whole thing heartbreaking that somebody like Scott can be doing this.
All right.
Yeah, heartbroken.
So heartbreaking.
We keep hearing that this doesn't sound like the Scott McClellan folks knew.
This is not the Scott we knew.
This is not the Scott we knew. This is not the Scott we knew.
Not the Scott McClellan we knew.
Not the Scott McClellan I've known for a long time.
It's a different Scott.
Maybe this is a new Scott.
Maybe this is a new Scott.
Well, you're making it sound like some other being inhabited his body.
Well,
it's almost like an out-of-body experience, quite frankly.
Scott's words don't even sound like Scott.
This doesn't sound like Scott.
Everybody from the White House who was associated with the White House area says this doesn't sound like Scott.
Right.
What did Scott sound like?
You know how Scott sounds. Scott's a soft-spoken person.
Scott was known for sitting quietly.
It sounds like somebody else. It sounds like a left-wing blogger.
Scott uses the very same words that the far left uses.
MoveOn.org, the John Kerry campaign, the DNC, even Dan Rather during the 2004 campaign. But not in a million years did I think I would be sitting here defending President Bush from Scott McClellan.
I said to him, did you have a ghostwriter? And he said no, but in the last few months, particularly as the deadline was approaching, the editor tweaked the content.
Tweaked it?
That's the way Scott put it to me.
The publisher didn't hold a gun to Scott's head and said, Scott, write this book. He held a checkbook.
As we all know, you don't sell books by writing about how great people are.
Yeah, that's probably true.
It's by doing the opposite.
Well, why do you think it is? Why do you think
I don't
he made
know.
this stuff up? Well, what do you think his motivations could be?
I don't know. His disgruntlement.
You've used words like sad and disgruntled.
Quote, Scott, we now know, is disgruntled.
Disgruntled. He was not a happy camper.
Well, apparently not.
Carolyn Kepter is CEO of Carolyn Company. You might remember her as one of the stars on The Apprentice.
I do believe that there are people called disgruntled employees, not...
Is McClellan disgruntled?
Well, you know, he certainly appears to be that way.
One of the things the president said to Scott that we talked about yesterday was how the president said he's looking forward to sitting on the front porch swing in Crawford with Scott. I asked him about that yesterday, and Scott didn't sound like he thought he was ever going to sit on that swing.
Wow. Former White House insider Dan Bartlett lashed out, telling CNN it's, quote, total crap, quote, total crap.
You said parts of this book are total crap. Yet at the same time, Scott uses these very inflammatory words like shading the truth.
It's total crap.
Wow. Shouldn't we be taking his claims very seriously?
I actually don't care.
Well, but the point is, I am shocked, Mr. Speaker. How could you possibly say something like
I'm
that?
more concerned about American Idol than I am about Scott
more people
McClellan.
vote in that than actually vote for president.
And I'm not picking
All right,
on
we've got
McClellan.
the quote of the day in the hotline tomorrow. I care more about American Idol.
And where there are more voters, and maybe more to vote for.
That's exactly right.
These types of books, I don't think contribute to the process. I think it makes people more cynical about Washington, D.C.
Need any brownies or anything?
Thank you. Thank you.
Scott didn't sound like he thought he was ever going to sit on that swing.
Wow.